Hope you're all doing good today. Welcome back to my channel. I give advices on self-development and mental health, and today I want to talk about abstract questions. It's a bit different from my usual topics or my usual video titles, but it consists of the same principles that I keep talking about, that is detachment, manifestation, self-development, etc. Also, that was the most random intro ever. What are abstract questions and how are they even important? Well, abstract questions, for one, like I said, abstract. They don't have a definition per se, but I'll try to explain it the best way I can. They don't really have a set answer. If you're doing a maths question, end of the day, you guys can all do it differently, but you'll reach the same conclusion, right? But in abstract questions, there's no one such answer. I mean, you can ultimately get to the same sort of gist of it. Like, you can infer from that abstract question, but there's no one answer as such. For example, I was recently advising this girl that everything that happens has a learning behind it. It has a teaching behind it. So try to figure out what this experience is trying to teach you. You know, it's part of the healing process when you're healing from a major life event, right? But how do you find this teaching, this learning, right? Your life's purpose, etc. Like, you're not here for no reason. Like, what are the odds of you being here? Born in that very household, born as a human, born with these natural traits. You're not a coincidence, right? But then to think, if we are not a coincidence, somebody created us, right? But then people often talk about God, but we can't really see this God. So basically, there's no one set answer to abstract questions, right? Are they philosophical questions? In some way, I'll say yes. I mean, philosophical questions are a part of abstract questions, but abstract questions is a much larger category, I'll say that. So what's the point of these abstract questions? Well, they give somewhat of a context to everything that's happening in our life. No matter what field you're in, you are using some of that abstract knowledge without you even realizing it. For example, you can have democracy in a classroom, right? You can have democracy in a state. You can have democracy in an entire country, and you can have democracy in the world. But end of the day, the main principle is democracy, right? That is what you're trying to promote. So end of the day, the intensity and the scale may vary, but the concept is the same. Well, abstract questions are somewhat like that. You can think of it as like a circle, and then another circle, and then another circle. Kind of like concentric circles, you know. And these abstract questions, they're most likely to come in the outer circles, you know. But most people can't think that holistically until they grow a bit older. So having an understanding of these abstract questions will give you more context in your everyday life. I mean, you will still have to figure out the details, but having these principles set in your head will help you have a stronger belief system, a stronger value system, and to find connections between things, which is very, very important, and to come up with new things. Because how you come up with new things is by finding connections between things that seem eclectic or that seem like worlds apart. But everything has a connection, okay? Everything is connected, everyone is connected. You don't see it right now, but something always connects you. Something always connects you, some invisible force. One way I would like to put it is by giving an example, okay? So when you are learning about a discipline for the first time, for example, the discipline is anthropology, political science, philosophy, I don't know. You're learning about some discipline for the first time, and in your first class, you always study what is economics or what is anthropology or what is this, basically. That is always a first chapter, isn't it? And they tell you, this is, and basically when you try to give your opinion to the teacher tries to make it more specific. The teacher tries to add more things into it. Very similar to how when you're growing up, you're told to do this, to do this, to do this. You're told to do exactly those things, a list of do's and don'ts. That is exactly how the discipline is taught as well. They try to make the definition more and more and more specific, and as you keep learning about the discipline afterwards, and you learn the subtopics, at the end you come to the conclusion that there is no one definition to explain it. There is simply no one definition. Similarly, with when you grow up, you realize that I have been taught these do's and don'ts, but at one point or the other you realize there's no one right way to live life. It is very similar in these abstract questions. There is no one right answer. There is no one right answer. It's kind of like if you study economics and you're a political science student mainly, economics helps you form context or background for political science, right? Similarly, if you're studying physics, chemistry and biology and maths will certainly help you find some context behind it, right? But by knowing chemistry and maths and biology, can you say that you know physics? You cannot. Very similarly, perception is more than the sum of its parts, if that makes sense to you. I really hope, because I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. It's not rocket science, it's really not. It is the most natural thing that can come to you. I'm not saying it's easy, I'm not saying it's complicated either. I'm just saying that it's the most natural thing that can come to you, to realize that you form an important part of this world, that you are very, very powerful. That is a very natural understanding at some level once you start feeling and experiencing things. And really feel these things is how you learn it, okay? And also because these abstract questions, they form a context to everything that you know. They are so holistic, because how else will you be able to connect to all other disciplines, right, which are seemingly very, very different? These abstract questions is what connects those disciplines, which in turn enables us to create things to make a better world, right? So these abstract questions are so holistic in nature that people think that they're completely useless. They're not. They're really not. Okay. So now that you know what they are, how can you solve an abstract question? Whether you're a person who's already solving an abstract question, perhaps you're stuck in a rut in your life, perhaps you're just feeling lost, you don't know what to do, or perhaps you just came to this video out of simple curiosity. Either ways, well, I'll take a very common example. Often days on the net, you will find questions like finding your life's purpose. That is an abstract question. That is a major abstract question. I should not start from something so big, but ultimately, you know what, the intensity and the scale does not matter. The principle is the same. So the way to answer these questions is to not look for the answer. Silly as that sounds, that is how you do it. So you will say, what's the point of knowing about all this? A person who doesn't know about it doesn't have to search for it, and a person who already does know about it also doesn't have to search for it. Well, I'll give you a simple example. So let's say you start the day and you say to yourself, I'm going to find red cars today. And you completely forgot about it later on. But once you see a red car, you will immediately remember, oh, today morning I decided to find red cars. So that's number one. You will basically focus more on that thing. But you were not searching for red cars, were you? Like you said it in the morning, but it has been hours since then. You probably even forgot you said that, right? You were not searching for it, but it was at the back of your mind. It was at the back of your mind. This is a little something called frequency illusion, by the way. So keep that question at the back of your mind, but don't search for it. Detach from the answer. Actually, asking yourself whether you're over someone or not is also an abstract question, because it's a psychological thing, isn't it? It is not something which can be seen exactly. I mean, it can be seen in symptoms in certain ways, but end of the day, if you've reached a point where you're not displaying any symptoms, but in your head you're still thinking about this person from time to time, not to the extent that you start crying or you start giving those very obvious symptoms, but you still think about this person, then you might find yourself asking, am I over this person or not? And that time it's not really visible. So this is also a very abstract question. So how do you know when you're over someone? When you've stopped asking. That's literally your answer. When you have stopped asking yourself this question, you know you're over this person. It does not mean that you have disassociated with yourself to the extent that you cannot feel anything. Actually, it's quite the opposite. You feel everything. And that's the thing. You have to feel everything to get over a person. You have to relive that incident even at times. I lost a family member a few years back, and I think of that person every single day. Yet, I know I'm over this person. I know I'm over this person. I'm over the incident actually. I know it. I just know it. It does not trigger me any longer. If anything, thinking of the person makes me feel happy, to be very honest. So really, there's no symptom as such that there is for knowing whether you're over someone or not. The answer is inside you. Also, okay, the answer to almost all abstract questions is inside you most often. You need to look for them inside you rather than outside you. It's kind of like when you surrender to the fact that you cannot find it right now, then you will get it. It's pretty much the same as your manifestations come in at a time when you least expect them. Least. The thing with these abstract questions is you cannot know it all right now. You will know it when the time is right. You will just know it. Life will present you opportunities for you to get the answers. Because if you are a person who is trying to solve these abstract questions and you want the answers now and you're looking for them every day, and that is your main purpose throughout your day, you can seriously get depressed. There's a good reasons why most of the philosophers have been depressed. You do not need to know it all now. You do not need to know it all now. Thinking about those answers in the first place is good because you're not letting something just go. Like, you're not just ignoring something that exists. You're trying to find an answer, and that is very determined. But you do not need to look for it, because if you're a person who is naturally a bit of a philosopher at heart, you will seriously get mentally very ill. But I want to tell you that if you're going through such a phase, there are two types of people who are more prone to mental health problems, okay? Those on the two extreme sides of the spectrum, those who are not so capable, and those who are extremely capable. And then there's the mid ground, the normal population. If you're on any of those extremes, you might see yourself in a bad place. And you might think to yourself that it's because you're on the lower side of the spectrum, but I promise you that is so far from the truth. And I thought like that, so do not think like that. I got to know later that I was actually extremely gifted. And also, to answer an abstract question, you got to live it. You got to live it. You can't just be thinking about it. I mean, sure, thinking is a part of it. It's a huge part of it. But you need to really live it. Most of the time, in most of those questions, you need to actually live them. I look back, I used to think about a lot of abstract things, but I do not remember what the questions were. I do not even remember those questions. And that is how it always is. You always forget the question by the end when you've answered that question, because you have started to live it to the extent that you start feeling that, was I ever even in doubt about this? It seems like such a natural process that, to be honest, you just forget what the question was in the first place. They're so abstract, you don't even remember. So keep it at the back of your mind. Do not always be looking for it. And you will find the answer when the time is right. You will always find it. Whether it's regarding your career, it's relationships, whether you're going through something hard, whether you're lost in life, whatever it is, you will find it, I promise. And also, do not look for those answers in some outside source. So recently I was talking to this person in my class, and he told me he read Gita. So Gita is the holy book of the Hindus, okay? And he told me to start reading Gita as well. And we basically got into a discussion where I told him that Gita is not giving you those answers. You looking inside yourself is giving you the answers. And then he said that Gita can give you the eyes to look within. Now that is very true. That I do not disagree with. But you have to stop finding it in some source. If you think this book will enlighten me, if you think this person will enlighten me, if you think love will enlighten me, those are all the wrong ways to go about it, okay? You cannot find it in one place. Let me give you another example. Let's imagine a higher power, okay? A higher power that in some way rules over all of us, okay? Above all of us. And we have 1% of this higher power inside all of us. It's somewhat like a democracy, okay? So this higher power, it's the government. We, the people, we are the voters. And this part of this higher power that's inside us, it can only be realized once you actually get to know yourself, once you actually start experiencing things, and it's somewhat of a feeling, okay? It's a state of mind. So self-realization are our votes. So this higher power, you can call it God, yes. But the reason I did not want to use that word is simply because it has, well, lost its meaning over the years, okay? But the thing is, if there is 1% of God inside all of us, first of all, realize how powerful that makes us. And secondly, that makes you realize that if you're looking for something in one person or one thing, that's still only a part of the entire whole. It is a lot to process, to intake, yes, but it's still only a part of it. It's still only a part of it. So you don't need to be looking for that answer in one place. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's abundant. It's abundant. And I can tell you this, but till the time you don't actually realize this and you don't actually feel it in your core, it will not come to you. The way I started realizing this was when I started connecting things, was when I started connecting seemingly abstract things, seemingly eclectic things, you know. So try to connect various fields, various disciplines, and just start knowing yourself. That can also be the key a lot of times. Just start observing things. But yeah, how to answer an abstract question? There is no one answer. So very interestingly, that makes the idea of labels so contradicting. Like honestly, a label is made for convenience, right? But now we use it more for understanding. We get to know the label first and then the concept. But how it should be was that first you understand the concept and then the label comes about. It's a bit of a side thing, but I thought it would be interesting to talk about it. Oh, I forgot to add that you also need to be extremely open-minded. Like, you really need to get out the labels, the stereotypes sort of thing that society has, put in your head. For example, a lot of people say to me that supernatural things or spiritual things, they make no sense. They're not rational, you know. They say it's simply not realistic. And then I think in terms of, well, is economics realistic to you? And then definitely they would agree that yes. And then I say it also has a lot of assumptions. It assumes that consumers are always rational when most people aren't rational. It assumes a lot of time that only one variable is changing and the rest are constant. But that is simply not how the world works, right? So if we assume in spiritual things that there is an energy field around people, that there is a higher source of power, those are also assumptions. And economics also has assumptions. And we are fine with economic assumptions, so why are we not fine with these assumptions? Why not? So really, you need to get that mentality out of your head, because yes, a lot of things will have more societal validation than other disciplines, even if they require the same amount of logic. You really just have to see the thing as it is. It's neither good nor bad. It's just a concept. It's just a concept. You have to be purely, you just have to follow a pattern, okay? You just have to use common sense, very frankly. And it's very interesting that to answer questions typically, you need to get very, specific and go in that specific pattern of doing things to typically find the answers. But in abstract questions, you actually need to get non-specific. I'm literally telling you, stop labeling things. This is not good, this is not bad. You don't know anything. You don't know anything. And that's a bit of a contradiction, I know. And it also sounds a bit confusing, but I think it's actually when you start applying it that you realize that it's very possible. And it's a beautiful way to think. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. I hope I could express it in the simplest way possible, because this is a topic that highly intrigues me. If you have any queries, questions, please feel free to ask me in the comments, or even if you don't and you just want to hold a random discussion, sure, go on. I'm totally all yours. So yeah, subscribe if you enjoyed, give this video a thumbs up, share with your friends, and follow my Instagram for other advices as well. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.